call the roll.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Commissioner Alvarado.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Burke. Commissioner Dunn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gilmetti. Commissioner Guardino.
Present.
Commissioner Kehoe.
Here.
Commissioner Tavaloni. Commissioner Van Konynenberg.
Here.
Chair Inman.
Here.
Senator Bell. Assemblymember Frazier. Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, we're going to start with item 48 today. Chris.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Item number 48 is a department action item requesting an allocation of $45 million for the project approval and environmental document phase for the last transgrade project. This SHOP project is located on U.S. Highway 101 in Del Norte County between Wilson Creek and Crescent City. U.S. Highway 101 has been progressively shifting westward and downward due to storm events and earth movements. The roadway has shifted horizontally by 50 feet in some sections. This section of highway serves as the lone access point between Del Norte County and the rest of California. Out-of-direction travel between Eureka and Crescent City would be approximately 6 hours if the route were to close. A 2018 regional economic study estimated that a one-year closure of Last Chance Grade would result in $1.5 billion in total cost to the regional economy, including travel costs, job losses, and reduced economic output. The project was programmed as a long lead in May 2017, and the Commission allocated $5 million in support cost funds in June 2017 for geotechnical evaluations and preliminary environmental work in the pre-construction phase. Due to the complexity of the project, the Commission programmed an additional $5 million in adopted 2018 SHOP to continue the preliminary environmental and geotechnical work and to help narrow down the alternatives for the project. Estimated capital costs for the 6 build alternatives currently being considered range from $300 million to $1.1 billion. Caltrans is requesting these funds to move the geotechnical and environmental studies on the project forward and evaluate the proposed alignments to meet the scheduled project environmental document date in 2026. Commission staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends Commission approval. Additionally, staff recommends that the Commission direct Caltrans to provide semi-annual updates to staff to provide an additional level of oversight for this project. Are there any questions?
Do we have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Gilmetti.
I don't really have a question, but I remember looking at the schedule that the completion date projected at this time is 2039, which seems a little long for me. I hope we can expedite this because I'll be 93 years old by that time, and I'd like to see it completed.
Be careful on your bike.
We spent, I think, $86 million in slide repairs, and this is going to be an ongoing thing until we get this road.
That's correct, and we've talked with Matt Brady, District Director Brady, and they are committed to trying to move forward this project as fast as they can and as responsibly as they can and try and beat the dates that they have scheduled.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Van Konynenberg.
I'd somewhat echo Commissioner Gilmetti's point. I'd like to, we're going to be up there at a town hall in the fall. I'd like to see kind of a decision tree of how, not just we hope to go quicker than the 8 years environmental and then 15 years of build out, but actually a plan of how you're going to get a decision tree to narrow down these options to get this done. I know you've already done a lot of studies, and but this is for something we've known needed to be done for a long time. The fact that we would have to wait till 2039 to see the fruition of this seems too long.
Yes, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner. I'm Matt Brady, the District 1 Director for Caltrans. And yes, we programmed, or at least we put these numbers together based on what we call the C3 alternative, which was a very long alternative that went farther north. We think we can get those timelines down significantly. Our next plan is, once this commission hopefully allocates this money today, is to do a turnkey project, get a consultant on board. We'll be doing the oversight. Once we get that consultant on board, we'll certainly be narrowing down our schedule and our scope of what we'll be looking at. So that is the plan.
Well, I appreciate that you have a lot of very difficult environmental challenges for this and geotechnical challenges. So I don't want to minimize that. I don't want to minimize getting everybody on the same page for whatever route you pick. Unfortunately, it's going to be some environmental challenges. However, maybe come back to us with a plan at that town hall. We'd love to see a real plan that's really well thought out, that there's community buy-in for, of here's how we can expedite this. Because from what I read from the letters and the phone calls I receive, I believe the community wants to see this done before 2039.
Oh, absolutely, and
Yeah.
we do as well. And like Mr. Traina was saying, we are going to be meeting semi-annually with commission staff to review our progress on this as well. So there'll be many checks and balances in there.
I have a motion by Commissioner Gometti, a second by Commissioner Alvarado. I have requests to speak. Lori Cowan.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'm Lori Cowan. I am the chairman for the Board of Supervisors in Del Norte County. Last Chance Grade is a stretch of highway, US Highway 101, just 30 miles from the Oregon border. Caltrans, as has been stated, has spent $85 million from 1997 until 2017 and has done an admirable job of keeping the highway open, or should I say in place, because it is moving and it's moving down. However, the highway does continue to fail, and we have traffic is limited to one lane or completely closed regularly due to landslides, just like a few weeks ago. The consensus and the opinion of the stakeholders group and other agencies is there needs to be an alternate route that avoids the landslide. If Last Chance Grade was to fail completely, it would be devastating to Del Norte County, with a loss, as stated before, of $1.5 billion for regional business annually, and losses would also impact Humboldt County, Southern Oregon, and beyond. Failure at Last Chance Grade results in complete halt of transportation north and south, and the town of Klamath is isolated from the rest of the county. I am going to correct you on one thing, and it's an 8-hour drive one way, because we have to go down into Humboldt, across 299 if that's open, hit Redding, come back through Oregon to get home. And what happens is you've got people who are in Klamath and Crescent City, so someone's going to be stuck at school or work and can't get back and forth. You know, the kids are separated from the families, and we want to get families together. This is also a route that our children, my children, drive regularly on buses to go to sporting events, school activities, and so on. Our public needs to go down to Santa Rosa, Eureka, and beyond for medical treatment. So we, you know, it's a lifeline to our community. It's very, very important. I'm part of a stakeholders group that was put together by Congressman Huffman. So you talk about everybody coming together, and he has done an excellent job over the last few years of bringing together the governmental groups, the tribes, the environmental groups, our community leaders, so that we're all together in making this decision and looking at the best route possible for Del Norte County. And trying to make sure that those 6 or 7 routes that were originally pointed out, to bring them down to 3 or 4, so we're not studying a whole bunch of routes. We're studying ones that really can be viable and not wasting a lot of time and hoping to move that 2039 deadline or end line back. So please consider our comments today and allocate the funding requested. We need to protect the people and the economy of our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tamara Layton.
Good morning. I'm Tamara Layton, the Executive Director of the Del Norte Local Transportation Commission. There are 38 pages of support letters attached to the agenda. We have a region willing to work in partnership with Caltrans to see this project through, including organizations that traditionally are at odds with and in litigation with Caltrans. The Del Norte County Office of Education Superintendent writes, I would like to convey the extreme urgency of this project. Even as of now, some families are so concerned with the continued maintenance and recent failures of the grade that they have placed their child at alternative schools. Rumiano Cheese is a 100-year-old business in our community. Baird Rumiano writes, the economic impact of the landslide and a road closure at Last Chance Grade would be catastrophic to both Humboldt County milk producers and Rumiano Cheese Company. Without the use of Highway 101, both the producers and the cheese company would go out of business. We have a letter of support from Save the Redwoods League. Save the Redwoods League writes, as a science-based organization that has been protecting, restoring, and connecting people to California's redwoods for 100 years, Save the Redwoods League understands the significance of these geotechnical and environmental studies in moving the project toward careful analysis of the preferred project alternatives. While the production of over 50 million in environmental documents is not a quick and nimble process, I am certain that if we accelerate the proposed timeline for the environmental work, we'll risk the existing support of organizations that are often at odds with Caltrans and regional economic goals. This is not to say that we couldn't finish early with the environmental documents, but that a forced early completion of the environmental documents would not benefit our stakeholders group and our support that we have with some of these organizations who are often at odds with us. Please allocate the funding needed for the environmental phase of Last Chance Grade. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Chris Howard.
On March 8th, 1972, a young family from Crescent City traveled with their son to Klamath to see him off for the first leg of his trip to San Francisco, then to Europe for his graduation from college. They kissed their son goodbye and began their trip home to Crescent City. He would never see his parents again, as the Highway 101 at Last Chance Grade failed, sending his parents 400 feet to their death. My name is Chris Howard, and I was 2 when this failure of Highway 101 occurred at Last Chance Grade. 46 years later, I'm a county supervisor, a local transportation commissioner, and a businessman working with our partners to come up with a permanent solution for Last Chance Grade. Our community, our region, needs a long-term fix to delays, closures, and spending. We recognize that the $45 million requested for the environmental phase is significant, but it's an economic savings when considering a full closure of U.S. Highway 101 at Last Chance Grade will create an annual loss of over $1.5 billion for just our regional businesses. The impacts of the closure are so great because there is no reasonable alternative. It's not 1 or just 2 hours of travel time, it's 6 to 8 additional hours, depending on your destination. The additional distance is estimated to increase travel costs annually by $236 million. In addition to travel costs, expected job loss due to increased transportation cost, decreased competitiveness, necessary changes in supply chain operations is estimated to be 2,700 direct jobs and 3,800 total jobs, resulting in losses of approximately $145 million in labor income and $456 million in business sales. The job loss represents 30% of the total jobs in my county. As a result, as manager of Alexander Dairy, we, like many, rely on U.S. Highway 101 for movement of our milk and eggs on a daily basis. With over 300,000 a week in raw and packaged goods being transported, our business does not have the ability to weather a highway failure that would divert our vehicles 320 miles. As the home of Redwood National and State Parks, in which all the proposed alternative alignments would travel through, it is of utmost importance we get this right the first time. Our community cannot afford any setbacks like we've had with our west-east connector of Highway 199, which has been held hostage in litigation for the past decade. We're hosting the California Transportation Town Hall, as mentioned, on November 6th, and we are looking forward to seeing many of you there. I've arranged for private helicopter flights of the area for you, so you can see firsthand the significance of our request and ultimate importance of Highway 101 as a lifeline to our community. Please allow Caltrans to take this next step and complete the environmental phase of Last Chance Grade project to protect the safety, health, and economy of Del Norte County.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments from my colleagues? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. We'll move on to item 49.
Yes, Commissioners, item number 49 is a department action item requesting an additional $451,000 in supplemental capital outlay support funds, a 34.6% increase over the previously allocated funding. This SHOP project on State Route 36 near Alton and Humboldt County will construct two 12-foot wide lanes, two 5-foot wide shoulders, install center line and shoulder rumble strips, and place open graded friction coarse pavement throughout the project limits. The performance measure goals for this project are to reduce the severity and number of collisions by 23 and improve over 60 linear feet of drainage systems to good condition. The original scope was to widen shoulders on both sides of the roadway. However, Caltrans has changed strategies to widen the roadway on one side only, and that's due to the discovery of unstable slope conditions on one side of the roadway during geotechnical studies conducted after the project programming phase. These changes will also require Caltrans to investigate and pursue additional right-of-way acquisition, including an existing private property used as a wood waste berm that will require Caltrans to conduct additional studies to evaluate hazardous waste contamination. The increased support costs are also needed to account for staff work associated with obtaining or updating all permits to complete the PA and ED phase, and to conduct additional right-of-way negotiations associated with obtaining temporary permits to enter property that was not included in the original studies. Commission staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends Commission approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gilmetti, a second by Commissioner Alvarado. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Abstaining. That motion carries. We'll move on to item 50, please, Chris.
Yes. Item number 50 is a department action item requesting an additional $390,000 in construction capital and $890,000 in construction capital outlay support to complete construction on this project. This SHOP project near Arnold on State Route 4 will install new drainage inlets, provide larger roadside snow storage shoulders, and construct retaining walls, barriers, and sand traps. The project location is above the 4,000-foot elevation and is subject to extreme winter weather conditions that can restrict construction activities from October through April. Caltrans awarded the construction contract for $7,717,000 in October 2016. And is requesting additional funding to complete this project due to schedule delays created by heavier than usual winter storms taking place in the winter of 2016 and 17 at the project site prior to the start of construction. Heavy rain and snowfall resulted in excess groundwater breaching retaining wall foundation elevations. These changes impacted the construction methods and required extensive dewatering and stabilization of the roadway embankment. The project was originally planned and budgeted for 2 construction seasons. However, these changes will require a 3rd construction season to complete the remaining work and will result in additional construction support costs for construction administration, environmental surveys, monitoring, and reporting. Commission staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends Commission approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Van Konynenberg, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Abstaining. That motion carries. Move on. Item 51.
Yes, item number 51 is a department action item requesting an additional $4,666,000 in construction capital to award this construction contract. This SHOP project is located on Interstate 880 in and near the city of Oakland from 23rd Avenue to 29th Avenue. The project will rehabilitate approximately 4 lane miles of the existing roadway and ramp pavement using precast jointed concrete panels. Caltrans advertised the project in November 2018 and opened bids on the project January 8, 2019. 2 contractors submitted bids for this contract, and both bids received by Caltrans exceeded the amount allocated by the Commission. The total amount required to award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder is $14,248,000. Caltrans analyzed the bids for this project and has provided the following justification for the cost increases. The project location is in a heavily traveled portion of Interstate 880, and construction activities are limited to extremely restrictive work windows at night that necessitated the use of precast jointed panels to ensure completion of scheduled work each night. It also will provide a more durable roadway surface than accelerated cast-in-place construction could provide. Caltrans revised the engineer's estimate in June 2018. However, the increased estimate was undervalued and well below the current market conditions for the local precast industry. Additionally, recent material increases for hot mix asphalt pavement materials and complex traffic control system requirements resulted in higher than anticipated bid costs. Commission staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends Commission approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gometti, a second by Commissioner Alvarado. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Abstaining? That motion carries. We'll move on. Item 52, please.
Yes, Commissioners. Item number 52 is a department action item requesting an additional $33,700,000 in construction capital for closeout of this contract. This project is located in the city and county of San Francisco on Doyle Drive, U.S. Highway 101, and utilized a public-private partnership, also known as P3 project delivery method. The project replaced a 1.6-mile section of structurally deficient roadway with a new 6-lane facility that serves as access to the southern end of the Golden Gate Bridge, connecting Marin and San Francisco counties, and is a major regional link between the Peninsula and North Bay area counties. The Commission approved this project for P3 procurement in May 2010 and approved a revised funding plan of $1,080,540,000 in June 2013. This amount included $30,840,000 in project risk reserves. Between the June 2013 meeting and the March 2018 meeting, the department recommended and the Commission approved 7 separate supplemental fund requests. The last 2 of the allocations were approved with the understanding that they would settle all outstanding claims and disputes, and that they would handle all outstanding claims and pursuits. This did not prove to be the case. Caltrans and San Francisco County Authority are now requesting the Commission allocate an additional $33,700,000 in supplemental funds for a proposed settlement agreement pertaining to contractual obligations and related costs associated with the completion of the project work by the contractor working for Golden State Concessionaire. That includes landscaping work within Caltrans right-of-way, project delay costs, environmental commitments, and the owner-controlled insurance program. The approval of this allocation would bring total allocation to this project to $1,288,340,000. Commission staff recommends the Commission approve the supplemental funds requested by Caltrans because rejecting the proposed settlement agreement will likely result in increased payouts to the contractor. Additionally, Caltrans has stated its commitment to conducting an exhaustive analysis and publishing a report on the lessons learned and best practices with regards to this project. Staff recommends that the Commission direct Caltrans to have this analysis prepared by an independent third party and report back to the Commission. With that, Commission staff recommends approval.
Well, Commissioner Van Konynenberg.
Before we move forward, I have some questions. Tony, if you could come. And I want to begin by indicating I sincerely believe that the issues we're dealing with here today, Tony, are not of your making, or nor Jim Davis's making. I know you guys inherited the situation, and I applaud you for plowing through and trying to get through it, so you have my empathy. But 2 weeks ago, I spoke to state and local transportation planners about accountability. And I made 3 points there that I think are very applicable here. The CTC exists to make state transportation planning, funding, and policy making more understandable, and accountable. That was what the intent of when this body was formed. But understanding and accountability can only occur when the CTC has all the applicable information. Whether that information is good, bad, or ugly, we have to know it. When the truth is shaded or hidden in any way, it only leads to bad outcomes and frustrations. We're different players, but we're on the same team. If you want us to be a good teammate, you got to treat us like a good teammate. When the commission votes in favor of a programming or allocation, the commission and the commissioners on it share in the ownership of the outcomes for good or bad. So 3 previous times, this commission has been asked to allocate funding on this project that were described by Chris. And 3 previous times, this commission was under the impression that all the outstanding claims were being settled by the allocation in question. The commission was asked to make a settlement payment to the Presidio Trust of $37 million in March of 2018. During the many discussions leading up to that decision, I have no recollection of any discussion that would indicate that there was additional outstanding claims as a result of actions of the Presidio Trust. Of the $33,700,000 that we are being asked to allocate today, $25 million is directly related to requirements by the Presidio Trust or project delays caused by the trust. This is information the CTC should have known when we were asked to settle with the trust last year. So that brings me to some questions. When the commission settled with the Presidio Trust last spring, was Caltrans aware that there would be additional settlement with the developer and the contractor based upon the actions of the trust?
So first, if I may say, the department views the commission as a strong partner. We partner with you, and we value the commission, the commissioners, the commission staff very much so. And we would never in any way try to defraud or mislead the commission in any way. And I apologize if that's the way it's being perceived at this moment. At the time in March of 2018, the settlement was with the trust to move the landscaping portion of this project over to the trust and to settle the issues with that. At the time, I think we knew that there was going to be additional OSIP, the Owner Control Insurance Program payments. There would be some additional RE office payments. But at the time, we thought the costs were minimal enough that it could be contained within the existing remaining funds of that project. Both the concessionaire, the developer, and the department, we had no idea the additional requirements that were going to be imposed upon us by the trust after that settlement. There was close to, I believe, 46 or 47 additional permits that were added to the project, which added more delay to the project and added a lot of additional work to the project, which was above and beyond which was originally agreed to with the developer back in the summer of 2016, and different from the settlement with the trust of March 2018.
So if I'm understanding you, I want to repeat back to what I think I'm hearing so I make sure I'm understanding this right. So of the 46 delays that we're being charged, that we're allocating about, of this allocation, about $14 million is due to the 46 different permit delays that the trust imposed. Those were done after March of 2018?
That's my understanding, is that that is what occurred.
And so when we settled with the trust, they were still allowed to not be responsive to permits in a timely manner that would delay the contractor?
Well, I guess, you know, looking back, coming into this project at the end, as you mentioned, I have the ability to maybe be a Monday morning armchair quarterback and see the good and the bad. This project, having 3 independent entities, made it extremely challenging to administer the contract. The actual construction work was probably not that difficult, but administering all those different functions, extremely difficult, probably not the best candidate for a P3, just my personal opinion.
I got it. I'm just wondering how the trust, when we settled, we didn't, so what you're saying is that the settlement we did with the trust didn't box them into in terms of they still could delay the project and it had additional costs burdened to the taxpayers.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, I just need to know that. Okay, did Caltrans incur additional support costs that was higher than what was allocated for this project?
I believe there were additional support costs that were used, probably allocated higher than what was.
If so, how much?
I don't have that number, but I could get back to the commission on that.
Other agencies participated in the $37 million settlement with the Presidio Trust. Can you refresh my memory as to which agencies participated in that and how much they put in the kitty?
There was the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, and I believe they provided $15 million of that, and the San Francisco County Transportation Authority also provided, I believe, a few million as well.
Are any local agencies being asked to pledge money towards settling these issues with the contractor?
Not today, no.
Why not?
That's a very good question. I would say the work, we were trying to button up the project and just finish it up. We thought we had, and initially this project was supposed to be closed out in December of 2016. Moving forward, obviously the trust added additional requirements to us. We have just tried to resolve this issue and tried to just close it out as quickly as possible and get it to the point. We did not ask any of the other agencies to participate.
Okay.
My recollection is the city and county of San Francisco was a partner on this and should participate in the settlement.
Well,
I don't know, maybe Mr. McElhaney can speak to that because he was there.
I guess my question is, we're asking the state as a whole, and this, so because we're making this settlement, this reduces the amount of money we have in the shop to do operational projects throughout the state. And so we're asking the state as a whole to bear the burden of this, when a lot of the issues that were created for this are local issues and local disputes. And so I would be, I have a high degree of frustration in this, and I apologize because I want to again say you have my empathy because you're coming in late to this, but I'd like to see more participation by local agencies and not just say, okay, California taxpayers, you have to deal with this, when this is an issue related to some of the local things that are going on. That wasn't a question, so that was a statement. So I'll defer to the rest of my commissioners at this point.
We have other? Did you want to respond, Tony?
Maybe Mr. McElhaney can shed some light on this.
Good morning, Chair Inman and Commissioners. I'm Dan McElhaney with Caltrans District 10, but of course previously with Caltrans District 4 as Chief Deputy District Director. And I was really quite involved during the Phase 1 and not so much during the Phase 2, but as we picked it up after the March CTC item, the lessons learned on P3 are going to be a lot to talk about in this study, particularly in regards to having that third-party landowner and us not having a highway easement deed until we completely got through the work on site. And that was really lessons learned April, May, June last year to understand, working closely with Flatiron, the contractor, and Presidio Trust. Actually, there's 46 permits that were still active, and there were 72 not closed with the trust. So every work site required teamwork with the trust, and then asking Flatiron to figure out how they could best get the work done. And we really do appreciate the teamwork with the CTC staff during the summer. So the settlement agreement that we're asking for approval really gets us to full closure. We've got the contract work done. We've got the elements. We're completely off-site. We've got approval from the trust on all those 72 permits. So the good news is this is the absolute last action in regards to all the work on the Presidio Trust, which has been many, many years, as you know. The teamwork from MTC and San Francisco TA in the past, they have contributed a significant amount of funds. I don't have all the details on that. So we did not go and request funds shared on this closeout.
Okay, Commissioner.
I think we ought to go back and I was under the impression that they had to participate in this settlement. So I'm surprised that they're not at the table and they haven't offered anything, or maybe we haven't even asked them. I don't know.
So I guess that would be my question. Have we asked and they've turned us down, or we haven't asked?
My understanding is we haven't asked. Not.
Commissioner Dunn, I think you're up next.
Yeah, thank you. That's a problem for me that you haven't even asked, and I wouldn't be bringing this to us today without that information. The second thing is this is the, how many times? This is the final supplement. We're going to close out. I'd love to see the Presidio Trust at that microphone telling us that this is acceptable to them, or a letter from them that we're done, something that indicates that the next thing comes up where we're not going to be dealing with an additional supplemental. But I'm having a hard time with this one today.
Make a final.
Okay, I have a question though. I too am frustrated with having thought I voted on a final painful vote several times in the past, only to learn that that wasn't the final pain. So is it possible in my world, in my day job, we have escrow accounts and funds get tied up until all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed? Is there any protection for the commission of having funds released subject to final?
We have the final acceptance of the project. We've closed out all the permits. Everything, it's just moving into the maintenance and operation mode of that P3 stage of the project now. So the construction project is complete.
But I think we thought we had the final before. Commissioner Kehoe.
Just, I think the commissioners' questions and comments have been very good and very demonstrated a lot of patience. And you've been here so many times. The number of times you've been told this is the last one, even in my short stay on the commission, are numerous. I have to say, hearing that we're going to get a document about lessons learned and best practices is almost like rubbing salt in the wound. That's going to be one of the most expensive lessons learned documents California's ever seen. I'd like to bring it back when the Presidio is here, or at least by letter, as Commissioner Dunn said, and when we have some real, if it's a settlement, all the parties are on board and there's no more action. They're forfeiting the right to any more action. Isn't that what we're looking for?
So we do.
But Director Berman, we've been here 3 or 4 times.
Agreement with the contractor says this is the last.
I think we need a settlement agreement with the Presidio Trust.
That's a different issue.
Well, I mean, anyway.
I think you can look at and I'm not, unfortunately our attorney couldn't stay overnight, but the highway easement deed probably has information about, but I can't speak to that.
So the settlement agreement we've entered into with the developer, basically they forfeit the right to provide or come forward with any additional claims, and that's admissible in court as well. So this is it for them. There's not another penny that will go to them.
It's my understanding there's nothing else that's needed from the trust. We've basically, there's no more permits, the right of way, the easement, everything else has been granted. And so there's nothing else that the trust can hold over, I believe, hold over your heads.
That's correct. In fact, the notice of intent has been already submitted. They're now responsible for all the stormwater, everything on that project. The trust has taken that all over.
I just want to make one final comment so we can get to the vote. I'm on record years ago saying I'm in favor of public-private partnerships, P3s. I'm also on record as saying that this was not an acceptable P3 because we had the funds to build it. We had already built the first phase as a design bid build. This was a political stunt by the Schwarzenegger administration and specifically the Chief of Staff, Susan Kennedy, for trying to push this and putting a star on the governor's lapel as having the first P3. Well, if this is the first P3 we've done a terrible job. And it's a reflection, unfortunately, on the future of doing P3s in the state of California. And I'm ashamed that this thing got as far as it did and as messed up as it did, because this is truly not a P3 that me personally as a commissioner can support. I didn't support it then, and I wouldn't support another availability funding P3. It has to be new money, and that's what we were looking for. So when we're sitting down and looking at, for example, State Route 37, which the MTC has been talking about lately, is doing a toll road. I'm all for doing that as a public-private partnership or a public-public partnership to get that facility built, but certainly not with availability funds and all the hair that this thing had on it. So anyway, you know, I'll move for approval.
Yes, there's a motion, so I need it. We have a motion by Commissioner Gometti, a second by Commissioner Gardino. Question by Commissioner Kehoe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Going back to your question of, you know, has Caltrans asked the questions that need to be asked? You replied that you haven't. So where does that leave us?
That's my question. I was deferring to my colleagues.
I mean, if we're being told that this is it, it's wrapped up, the bow is on it, but there's still unanswered questions, that seems to me to be not consistent.
Well, that would be what my statement, I guess, would be as part of the motion is the well is dry. You guys need to look us in the eye and need to understand the well is dry. Don't come back.
We don't plan to come back.
That's what they've been saying for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So we're just telling you right now, the well is dry. Don't come back.
I feel confident that we will not come back with the settlement agreement. As I mentioned, there's statements and clauses in there that basically do not allow the developer to come back and ask for any additional money, not a penny more. This is it.
If I could add, we do have a letter from the trust that we're completely closed out on all those permits, working with Michael Boland, Chief of Parks, so we're done on site. We have the highway easement deed, and now they're doing their landscape work, so we're lead. We do have that. I will send it to Chris.
Commissioner Van Konen.
Madam Chair, I'm not going to support the motion unless there's participation from the local agencies. I'm not prepared to support this. So I would be willing to allocate some, but the local agencies participated, I believe, at about 50% for the last settlement, and I think that's an appropriate level. But I would let staff work that out. But I'm not prepared to shoulder this, to have all of California pay for this when some of this is local issues and some of they need to participate in the settlement. And my empathy is because I really do think the contractor needs to be paid. That this is not fair to the contractor. Okay. But there's no way to get, in my opinion, to get around that.
Okay. Other questions? I have a question exactly what other options would be available. So we've been concerned that we didn't ask our partners. Perhaps there were reasons. Perhaps a deal was brokered with them. Maybe they already said enough's enough and their final was really a final. I don't know on those previous. I know they weren't nuts about coming to the table, but they came to the table. So I don't know what the terms were. Do you all know what the terms were with the last ask? Yes, Director Berman.
Yeah, the locals participated per agreements with us, and the agreement with us did not include the construction. It was with the trust, I believe. So that's why the locals weren't asked to participate. We have agreements with them that say what their participation will be, and it didn't include this.
Why? Do you know why we did that, or?
I wasn't around when that was done. It was done at the initiation of the project.
Commissioner Alvarado.
Oh, and again, I was with Commissioner Gometti when we said what we said at the beginning, and unfortunately, everything that we've predicted has come true. You know, not only that, but we have we had an arbitration board that ruled against the department, I don't know how many times, and then we remove the one of the panel members, and didn't we appoint them for 8 or 9 months? And this has been a fiasco from the beginning. So I didn't support the project then. I intend to support the motion today, again, with the understanding that we're done. And, you know, you talk about I guess I would call it a report, but I mean, it's not going to be good at all. And, you know, we got another one in the making that we talked about that we need to deal with here in the Antlers Bridge, and I want to bring that up at the next meeting. But we need just to do a whole lot of things differently. And, you know, it may have a leg up being in construction, but this is just, I won't even describe it. In construction.
And the question is this to approve, or is this to put it over to the next meeting?
No, to approve.
To approve.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve this and a second. I think we'll have to do a roll call vote. Doug, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Alvarado.
Yes.
Commissioner Burke.
Aye.
Commissioner Dunn. Commissioner Gilmetti. Aye. Commissioner Gordino. Aye. Commissioner Kehoe. No. Commissioner Tavaloni. Commissioner Van Konynenberg. No. Chair Inman.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
You know, and I just wanted to just make a comment on the gravity of this thing. Very rarely does this commission split its vote. And that's what this project has brought us to. I'm very disappointed in that.
I think the tragedy of this is that P3, which probably had a real possibility of public-private partnerships, has a bad name as a result of this project. And I voted aye because you have to try to finish this. I mean, we can't keep going on, and I assume that we're not going to be called upon for more money, that whatever comes up, I don't know why, I think that there's always something that comes up. Every time I hear it's final, and then I hear about 2 more things. So I would say this is my last aye vote, and I'm the one who came on here as a result of the conflict. But this has to be it. Absolutely.
Do we have any other comments? I, too, cast my vote under duress, so I think it was sad. Sad day for all of us, and time to move on to the next vote, please. Item 53.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tab 53 is an action item to approve the 2018 Environmental Enhancement and Mitigation Program list of recommended projects. Annually, the California Natural Resources Agency develops procedures to select projects and submits the recommended for funding project list to the Commission for approval. The California Natural Resources Agency reviewed 33 grant applications and recommends $6,918,250 in funding for 12 projects. The multidiscipline evaluation team used the Environmental Enhancement and Mitigation Program procedures and criteria to evaluate the applications and recommended the most competitive project applications for award. Staff has reviewed the requests submitted by the California Natural Resources Agency and recommends your approval of tab 53.
Motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Item 54, please.
Commissioners, tab 54 is an action item to approve an allocation for $6,583,250 for 11 projects included in the 2018 Environmental Enhancement and Mitigation Program. The projects recommended for funding has provided the California Natural Resources Agency evidence of CEQA compliance. The CEQA lead agencies have determined that the 11 projects are exempt from CEQA. One project not included, the Ranchero Road Interchange Landscaping Project, will be brought forward for allocation at the May 2019 Commission meeting. Staff has reviewed the request submitted by the California Natural Resources Agency and recommends your approval of tab 54.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Van Konynenberg, a second by Commissioner Burke. Is there discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstaining? That motion carries. Item 55, please, Teresa.
Commissioners, item 55 is an information item. This is the first progress report presented to the Commission for the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program. Just a quick background on the program. SB 862 created the program in statutes of 2014 with cap and trade funds. The passage of SB 1 provided significant funds to the program. Since its inception of the program, the Transportation Agency has awarded 3 cycles for a total of 57 projects. The Commission's responsibility is to allocate the funds to each of the projects that have been selected. This report provides a status of the projects that have been allocated by the Commission for all 3 cycles. As this is the first report, staff will continue to work with the department in the formatting for consistency purposes so that they are consistent with all other SB1 programs, reports. Ron Shepard and Kyle Gradinger from the Division of Rail and Mass Trans are here to provide you a brief overview of the report.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Secretary, Director Berman. I'd like to introduce myself. I am Ron Shepard. I'm the Acting Division Chief of the Division of Rail and Mass Transportation for Caltrans. In a few moments, my assistant, Kyle, is going to give you a short presentation of our first semi-annual status report of the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program. Kyle's going to touch on a quick, brief overview of the program, status of the projects of the 3 cycles of awards. He's going to summarize some of the completed projects that we already have and a brief highlights of the upcoming activities that we're going to begin for cycle number 4. My staff and I look forward to working with yourselves and Commission staff to ensure that our reports are going to be giving you the information that you need and that you want. Thank you very much, and I'm going to turn the presentation over to Kyle.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm pleased to be here today to present some of the key findings from our first semi-annual TIRCP report. Quick overview on the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program. As I've mentioned to you many times before, I apologize if I'm repeating, but this is an historic investment in California's future to create new and improved mobility options across the state that are going to help us achieve our climate targets and support land use and equity goals as well as driving ridership across transit. This program provides competitive grants for transformative capital investments that improve the statewide transportation network and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And put together, the TIRCP projects are beginning to form a coordinated statewide system that will provide frequent, reliable, and seamless connectivity options for all Californians and our visitors. A quick refresher on the allocation process. The selections are made and then Caltrans staff works to submit the actual allocations, recommendations for allocations to the Commission, and we check that to make sure that the projects are ready, that the funds are available, and that the funding sources are all committed. We bring them to you. The Commission then approves the allocation requests, and then as we get into this, to the program, we will inevitably deal with extensions and project requests. So those projects in the future, they cannot award construction within a short time period after allocation, may request time extensions if CalSTA and Caltrans deem those circumstances to be unforeseen and extraordinary, and we're going to be developing processes to review those extensions as they inevitably begin to roll in. So a summary of the awards. This is, as was mentioned, this is our first semi-annual report. We have 3 cycles of the program that have been awarded so far for a total of $5.34 billion. The total amount that has been allocated of those dollars is 14.4%. We have allocated the entire Cycle 1 awards, and of Cycle 1, we've expended 37% of that allocation. Across all 3 cycles, we have allocated 14.4% of the $5.3 billion and have expended 20% of those total funds that have been allocated. And to date, we have completed 5 projects, all from Cycle 1, which was announced in 2015. So a quick summary of some of those completed projects. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that at Caltrans, we're celebrating Tri-Transit Month. And so we have a lot of new offerings out there that I invite you to try if you're in the San Diego area. As I was a few weeks ago for the Transportation Planning Conference, I was able to take advantage of one of the new BRT routes that Sandag and MTS are putting out there. So San Diego, Sandag, introduced the bus rapid transit route to Otay Mesa, which went operational just last month in February. MTS Trolley has 8 new light rail vehicles. I encourage you to go give a try, and 1 new station downtown. Altamont Commuter Express installed a wayside power source so that when the trains are idling or overnighting in the depot, they are not emitting. They're able to turn off the prime mover and plug into a wayside power source and in the air during the evenings. The Monterey Bay Operations and Maintenance Facility project is complete in Salinas, which is allowing Monterey Salinas Transit to reduce the number of non-revenue deadhead moves, so miles driven without passengers, and using the savings from that project to fund zero-emission routes in disadvantaged communities. And then the 4th one on the list, the Capital Corridor Travel Time Reduction, is an exciting project that is completed, and in May, the Capital Corridor expects to be able to offer a 10-minute travel time savings on their corridor, primarily between Oakland and San Jose, which is a great advance there. There's actually a significant commute demographic there that's going from Oakland to San Jose in the mornings, and their commute's going to get shaved by about 12 or 13% in May. In addition to the projects that have been completed, there have been several actions taken by the Commission to date, which have helped us to leverage additional funds. I believe of the $5.3 billion that has been awarded so far, we are leveraging around $25 billion in total project value. And some of the actions that you all have taken have been very helpful, allowing agencies such as Los Angeles Metro through letters of no prejudice, to go ahead and leverage funding for projects such as the Gold Line Light Rail Transit Extension and the East San Fernando Valley Transit Corridor. Santa Clara Valley Transit Authority has been able to advance their Phase 2 BART extension to San Jose because of your actions, and the Southern California Regional Rail Authority is beginning to move forward on pieces of the significant Southern California Optimized Rail Expansion project because of your actions to date. Thank you. In terms of program delivery at Caltrans and the Division of Rail and Mass Transit, as this program is growing and getting up to speed, we are beginning to stand up processes, policies, and procedures that are going to help us improve program delivery and work better with our partners and the awardees. Currently, we are developing automated reporting processes so that this report will become a little bit easier for us to put together for you. And we're also streamlining the supplemental agreement process. And we're working with other divisions within Caltrans and working to adopt some of the procedures from other divisions, such as the Local Assistance Procedures Manual, into the way that we run the TIRCP program. And finally, looking forward to the next report, next semi-annual report, we will brief you again. I'll come back in October and give you an update at that time. And then over the summer, we're going to start gearing up for the 4th round of the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program. So over the spring and summer, we will be hosting with CalSTA informal workshops and revising the guidelines for the program. In September of 2019, we will have a call for projects for Cycle 4. Those projects will be due just before the holidays in December 2019. And we will make a selection by the end of April 2020 for the Cycle 4 awards. Here's my report.
Yes,
just real quickly.
Commissioner Van Kennijenberg.
In the yellow that was handed out to us, we programmed about $5.3 billion, but only about $163 million has been allocated or expended, I should say. There's been about $773 million. So really only about 3% of the program dollars have been expended. So to date, as I see, read if my math is correct.
The total expended percent correct of that allocated
is that what was planned, or are we just having a hard time getting some of the agencies to kind of get going?
It's a part of it is that a lot of the largest dollar awards are going to these multi-year agreements. So the projects aren't actually going to get flowing until certain checkpoints are reached. So there are things like the Santa Clara, the BART extension to San Jose is one of a couple of projects that are awaiting federal actions, federal full funding grant agreements. And so the award was made in anticipation of helping support the project development up to that point, but the real expenditures won't begin until the FFGA is in place. And that alone is I believe, around $1 billion project. So some of the money is waiting for things like that. And then we're currently working on cycle 3 to get the supplemental agreements out the door. We're working with partners with the awardees, and then also with legal and other divisions within Caltrans to make sure that we're writing those agreements in a way that allows us to provide technical assistance to the awardee, and that we're also matching up with the language of the award language and the intent in that. So we're getting those processes stood up. We've brought in some staff on rotations from other divisions to help us dive in, and we've actually hosted a few task forces in the last few weeks to get those supplemental agreements out the door so that we can start having those dollars to spend.
I have a question for you. In terms of the cap and trade dollars, I mean, one of the goals of this program clearly has to be to help us reduce our emissions. So on the charts that we get, is it possible for us to have our best estimate of what kind of emission reduction we're going to get? Maybe it's our projection and our actual when they actually come into service. But I don't see on the chart anywhere where we're kind of measuring our success in achieving that goal. So I don't know how you all monitor that.
Yes, we will add that into the next version of the report.
Okay.
We work with ARB to report the benefits, and once a project goes live, then it begins its reporting period. And so
Okay.
we're working out the mechanics.
I think we'd be very interested. And then for those zero emission buses, what's happening to help? You all have heard me express my concern that our transit operators are going to need a little help to meet that goal. So for them to order a bus is fantastic, but we're not going to see any emission reduction until it's actually put into daily service. So what are we doing in terms of helping build those bridges, so to speak, in terms of the infrastructure costs can be large, and also just the logistics of that, what happens when we take out bus parking, we can't leave our buses out and everything. So what are you all doing in that regard?
One thing we've learned over the past few months is that we're not alone in this. Caltrans wants to provide technical assistance to the awardees, and so we are out there making connections with other state agencies that are involved, as well as air quality management districts. We reached out last week to the California Energy Commission and are looking forward to ways that we can bring them in and their technical assistance in to work with our awardees and with us to identify opportunities for where we can put charging locations that more than one transit agency can benefit from. What are the actual physical and electrical requirements for charging based on the type of electric buses that agencies are purchasing. And we're also beginning to look at hydrogen options as well in the heavy-duty market. So we're out there right now having conversations with GoBiz and others across the state, pulling together the expertise, and we're working to develop a way that we can bring that to the awardees and to other transit agencies across the state and share knowledge so that we can all gear up for a zero-emission future. It's early days, but there's a lot of partners out there.
Okay, but I would suggest that we've made a bunch of grants for the equipment in advance, so.
Yes. Okay. And we're going to work with them to provide flexibility on what type of buses they buy, whether it's an overnight charging bus or a charging on the fly bus, and because those then have implications on what the infrastructure looks like. So we're working, as I said, with those partners to identify what the best options are for the specific transit agencies and the routes, and the process allows us to take a little bit of time to get that right before we begin to invest in substations and charging facilities, and really try to get the best sense we can of what that map looks like.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will move on to item 56, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tab 56 is an information item. Overall, staff does not have concerns for the Prop 1B report. Also want to note, based on feedback from yesterday's SB1 report, we'll work with the department to streamline it to highlight active projects. Dan Mitchell's here. He's the Assistant General Manager for the City of Los Angeles. He will be presenting an update on the city's traffic light synchronization program. And when he is done presenting, Commission staff Terry Anderson will provide an update on the local seismic bridge retrofit program and some of her concerns with the reporting.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to address you this morning about the Proposition 1B traffic light synchronization program projects in the City of Los Angeles. I would like to share with you an update on the benefits that have been achieved in Los Angeles through the TLSP program. And I would also like to share our vision for how to leverage the cost savings achieved through the program to protect the investment made over the last 11 years and ensure that as this funding source is closed out, Los Angeles is well positioned to continue to achieve these benefits for years to come. So I'll start with just an introduction to what we call the ATSAC system, the Automated Traffic Surveillance and Control System. That system was begun for the 1984 Olympics and began with 128 signals around the Coliseum in downtown Los Angeles. LADOT engineers developed that initial system to improve the efficiency of the city's road network during the 1984 Olympics, and that system has continued to be expanded so that the current generation of traffic signal synchronization technology includes now over 4,700 signalized intersections that control over 7,500 miles of city streets. The system now includes over 30,000 vehicle detectors and over 620 cameras for traffic surveillance. The main goals of the system are to safely manage the movement of all transportation modes, to improve the efficiency of the traffic signal system by optimally allocating green time to these different modes in different directions, and provide the capability to remotely monitor and adjust signal timing in real time to respond to traffic conditions, special traffic conditions or occurrences. Obviously, we have a number of special events throughout the city of Los Angeles. And this also provides us the ability to analyze traffic data to improve things year over year. So through the TLSP program, on to the next slide, this program, as envisioned in 2008, provided the final critical step to expand this system throughout the entire city of Los Angeles. The program included expanding to almost half of the city's signal system, to expanding 2,182 signals so that we could complete that project. And the program included traffic signal interconnect, traffic responsive control, as well as changeable message signs. As an overlay, also updated about a third of the city's signals with the adaptive traffic control system, and that implemented a new ITS architecture upgrade and adaptive traffic signal control that responds in real time, collecting data from those 30,000 detectors, and the computer systems crunch the numbers and in real time are adjusting the signal timing to respond to the traffic conditions in the field. The system also includes traffic signals that run along major transit corridors where the major light rail systems run on street. It also incorporates heavy rail crossings where we have major rail with expanded interconnect capabilities to ensure their safe operation. So now to the benefits. Overall, through all the different projects that have been completed through this program, we have achieved approximately a 6% improvement in travel time, as well as a 5% reduction in emissions. The City of Los Angeles also, in 2013, commissioned a study by Texas A&M University that looked at the overall program and shared that reduced travel times varied between 4 and 9%, and reduced emissions in the 3 to 4% range. So there have been significant widespread benefits achieved through this program, and now I'd like to talk about moving to the future. I would like to share our vision for how to protect the investment made in Los Angeles through the TLSP program. As the Commission is well aware, California, including Los Angeles, is undergoing a transportation revolution through both the advent of new technology and private mobility companies, some of which threaten the benefits that this program has achieved. So in order to fulfill the full vision of the program, we are proposing to maintain the full TLSP funding commitment to the City of Los Angeles and leverage the approximate 8% cost savings achieved over all these projects to embark on one final TLSP project in Los Angeles. And the following two slides share that vision for you. So now, having come from the 1984 Olympics and now looking ahead to the coming 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games that will be held in Los Angeles, LADOT proposes to leverage the existing built infrastructure and vehicle-to-infrastructure communications to enable the next level of safety and efficiency outcomes. This gives LADOT the ability to actively manage right-of-way through digital parking, digital curb management, and digital public communications through vehicles and mobile devices that will continue to shape transportation for the coming decades. Similar to ATSEC in the past, this technology will be built on open source, benefiting all Californians and cities across the nation. So the proposed project includes enhancements to the ATSEC system, enhancements will be made to the communication system. That includes traffic signals along key transit routes and multimodal corridors. These enhancements are envisioned to include advanced transportation cabinets, digital traffic surveillance cameras, and resilient communication systems to ensure that the communication and our system is protected for years in the future. The project scope also includes software enhancements and new software-enabled features to the ATSEC system that will improve traffic management, signal synchronization, and safety with a focus on early incident detection, transit priority, emergency preemption, and curb management that facilitate enhanced network management and addresses the emerging transportation modes. On to the final slide. Some of the proposed new project benefits include synergy with current programs that LADOT has laid out called the ATSAC 3.0 program, and bringing ATSAC into the future. That's consistent with our, the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation's transportation technology strategic plan that's been laid out. It also includes automated and connected vehicle-ready technology. I mentioned open source. It also includes open source data definitions through the new Mobility Data Specification, or MDS, and digital services, including parking, curb, sidewalk, and potentially even in the future airspace management. This also includes pedestrian safety enhancements and mobility improvements for all modes. The new traffic signal cabinets and technology provide new capabilities as we're expanding our system to address all modes. And of course, further emission reductions and greater reliability and resiliency in case of emergencies and in preparation for special events. So in closing, I'd like to thank the Commission for providing the opportunity for me to share this with you, and I look forward to returning to this body later in this year to discuss our formal project proposal currently targeted for your August meeting. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Do you have any questions? I have just one quick one on your travel time savings. This sources a study in 2013, and we're talking about 6% travel time improvement in Los Angeles. It's kind of hard to feel that when you're here every day. So what's this chart really telling us?
It's presenting actually two different metrics. One are specific travel time improvements and emission improvements through the individual projects funded by TLSP, as well as sharing the overall benefits. While those numbers do seem quite small, they are still significant given the vehicle miles traveled in the city of Los Angeles over the 500 square miles of our city. And in some ways, those benefits have been started to be whittled away through new private mobility that's been rolled out through the city.
So I just don't know what years this is based on. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. To clarify, the individual project benefits were measured after each project was implemented. The overall program numbers were from a 2013 study.
Oh, that was a long time ago. Commissioner Gometti.
I don't have a question on this, but I do have a question on the local bridge seismic retrofit program.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Okay, thank you.
We still have a whole bunch of people who aren't complying. You know, the bonds were passed in '06, and we have these bridges that should have been repaired a long time ago. And there's at least 5 or 6 of these communities that have not even started their design phase. Mm-hmm. And the others are not very far along in their design phase. With these completion dates, estimated construction to begin in 2020, 21, 23, I doubt that's going to even happen. What do we do with these people? They're just dragging their feet for 13 years.
Robert, is your light on? Because you want to respond. I'm going to pass it to Terry.
Well, before we have the Department of Respond or us respond, Terry has an update she wanted to brief the Commission on some error findings, but it's very similar to what you're seeing is the lack of delivery. Okay, so Terry, let's hear from you.
Okay, so real quick, and you touched on most of them, Commissioner Gilmetti, but what I'm seeing in that second quarter report is a couple of things. One is that of the projects that are actually completed, 25% of those projects do not have a final delivery report approved, and a large portion of those are with another state agency. So that's a question I have for Caltrans. A second thing that I'm noticing is that every project that hasn't been completed is currently scheduled, is behind schedule for completing construction. Of the 375 projects, 50 of those have not even begun construction. And one last thing I'm noticing as I compare the first quarter report to the second quarter report, I'm noticing that many agencies continue to move that construction completion date out. So I know that we're all interested in seeing the work on these bridges completed. Currently, there is no sunset for the funding for this program, and it doesn't appear that there's real specific consequences to these agencies for not completing the work. So staff would appreciate guidance from the Commission on perhaps other things that could be done with these agencies.
Well, if they work for me, I'd fire them. I mean, these are critical things. If these bridges fail, it could cause death, I mean, injury, you know, whatever, economic distress. How do we embarrass these people? I mean, do we go to their local newspapers and tell them they've been dragging their feet for 13 years? And we can call them in, but we've called them in before, and it really hasn't budged them much.
Correct. So I have various ideas for recommendations. Again, there's not a lot of leverage right now in the existing guidance. It might be something where we need to work together with Caltrans and the agencies to develop some additional guidance and restrictions. Some might require additional legislation because the program is legislated. Again, if you look at these, there's a lot of these agencies that are currently receiving other funding through other competitive programs. Whether or not that's something that we want to consider or not, I would need that guidance.
I'd like to see you work with our executive director. Come to us with some recommendations, because this has taken way too long. It's too important, and these people are just, put their head in the sand.
We'll work with the department, come back in May with a list of recommendations for the commission to take related to this program, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Alvarado?
And that's what I was just going to bring up. We had talked last time about just going in and doing the work, and then just withholding whatever funding down the line, whatever their match would have been, and just applying it to whatever bridge we needed to do. I mean, it is ridiculous. And we bring people before us, and it's just, they just shrug their shoulders and say, well, what are you going to do? I think at some point we just have to step in as an oversight body and just get the work done. I think that should be one of the options.
Either that or you close the bridge. Director Branson.
Well, Commissioners, we will bring recommendations back for your consideration in May. We as staff share your concerns, so we'll be back.
Okay. Terry, did that conclude your presentation? Okay, thank you. Then that was an information item. We'll move on to item 57, please, Terry.
Thank you. Commissioners, item number 57 is an action item to approve the baseline agreements for 17 SHOP projects. Approval of these agreements will establish them as the basis for project delivery and monitoring. Staff has reviewed these agreements and finds they are consistent with the Commission adopted guidelines and recommends approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gometti, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Dawn, item 58, please.
Yes, Commissioners, item 58 is an action item to approve the trade corridor enhancement baseline agreement for the State Route 60591 interchange improvement in Los Angeles County. Staff has reviewed this baseline agreement, finds it consistent with the program guideline, and therefore recommends approval.
A motion by Commissioner Dunn, a second by Commissioner Kehoe. Is there discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Item 59, Dawn?
Yes, so item 59 is an information item which provides an update on the receipt and review of the project baseline agreement forms for projects subject to the baseline agreement requirements for the local partnership program, the congested corridors program, and the trade corridor program. Staff has been able to finalize an additional 16 benefit forms and is provided in attachment B of your handout. The remaining 14 forms will be coming back to you at the May meeting, so staff can continue to work with our partner agencies to finalize. And then attachment C is just a status of the projects remaining to complete their baseline agreements based on the requirements in the accountability guidelines. Those come in 6 months after environmental completion. So we are working, following those projects closely to monitor their environmental completion schedule. And with that, this is an information item, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? If not, we'll move on to the next item. Please, Dawn. Item 60.
Item 60 is an action item to approve the Prop 1B TCIF program baseline agreement for the Everport Terminal Berth Efficiency Project for the Port of Los Angeles. Again, staff has reviewed the agreement and finds it consistent with the program guidelines and therefore recommends approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Van Kynenberg. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Abstaining? That motion carries. Item 61, Christine.
Tab 61 is an action item to amend the 2019 Local Partnership Formulaic Program Funding Share Distribution. The 2019 Local Partnership Formulaic Program is funded from $100 million annually in state funds authorized by Senate Bill 1 that are appropriated from the Road Maintenance and Rehabilitation Account for fiscal year 2019-20. Only agencies with commission-adopted shares and committed local matching funds are eligible to receive funding. On June 27, 2018, the Commission adopted the 2019 Local Partnership Formulaic Program Funding Share Distribution for fiscal year 2019-20, which included shares for 40 agencies and incentive funding of $5 million for the Bay Area Toll Authority for their voter-approved Regional Measure 3, effective January 1, 2019. On October 17, 2018, the Commission adopted the 2019 Local Partnership Formulaic Program. The Local Partnership Formulaic Program recognizes new or renewed voter-approved self-help efforts and incentivizes jurisdictions to pursue future sales tax measures, tolls, and fees. One-time incentive funding is provided to jurisdictions that seek and receive voter approval of new or renewed sales tax measures, tolls, or fees that have a minimum period of 10 years, are solely dedicated to transportation, and the sales taxes are equal to or greater than 1/4 cent. Specifically, this amendment will include incentive funding for 3 jurisdictions. The Transportation Authority of Marin County will receive incentive funding of $5 million for their renewed voter-approved 30-year half-cent sales tax measure effective April 1, 2019. The San Mateo County Transit District will receive incentive funding of $5 million for their new voter-approved 30-year half-cent sales tax measure effective April 1, 2019. And the Council of San Benito County Governments will receive incentive funding of $5 million for their new voter-approved 30-year 1-cent sales tax measure effective April 1, 2019. This amendment will result in a total of $20 million of incentive funding to eligible jurisdictions. A total of 41 agencies will receive local partnership formulaic shares, including incentive funding for fiscal year 2019-20. The incentive funding is available for programming through June 30th, 2021. Incentive funding for the fiscal year 2019-20 has reached the maximum amount granted annually. The subsequent local partnership competitive program cycle capacity will be reduced by $20 million to accommodate the incentive funding. The item is consistent with the local partnership program guidelines. Therefore, staff recommends your approval of tab 61 as presented in the staff recommendation.
I have a motion by Commissioner Guardino, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Terry, item 62.
Commissioners, item 62 is a department action item requesting amendments to the 2018 SHOP. There are some minor changes shown on the yellow replacement items. Staff has reviewed the projects for their consistency with the Transportation Asset Management Plan and the SHOP guidelines and recommends Commission approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gilmetti, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? But abstaining? That motion carries. Teresa, item 63.
Item 63 is an action item. This is a Stip amendment. The Riverside County Transportation Commission proposes a Stip amendment to program an AB 3090 replacement project. This is in order to advance the environmental phase for their Interstate 15 Express Lanes Southern Extension project. They are proposing to use federal funds to advance the project. The replacement project will stay programmed in the same fiscal year, 22-23. The Stip amendment was noticed at the January Commission meeting as required by Stip guidelines. Staff recommends your approval.
I have a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? But abstaining? That motion carries. Teresa.
Item 64 is an information item. This is a Stip amendment for notice. Caltrans and the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority proposes a Stip amendment to delay the construction of the Rosecrans-Marquardt Great Separation Project from fiscal year 1920 to 2021. This is just for notice, and no action is required on your part at this time.
Thank you very much. Terry, item 65, please.
Commissioners, item 65 is a department action item requesting an allocation of $8.25 million for 5 minor projects. Commission staff has reviewed the projects and recommends commission approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Burke. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? By abstaining? That motion carries. Item 66, Terry.
Item 66 is a department action item requesting an allocation of construction funds for shop projects. There are some changes on the change list, and with those changes, the request is $243.3 million for 28 projects. Commission staff has reviewed the projects for conformity with their programming in the 2018 shop and consistency with the TAMP and recommends commission approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kehoe, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? By abstaining? That motion carries. Terry.
Item 67 is a department action item requesting an allocation of pre-construction support for shop projects. Please note that projects number 1 and 8 were withdrawn as indicated on the change list. With the noted changes, the request is $75.9 million for 80 pre-construction phases. Commission staff has reviewed the projects for conformity with their programming in the 2018 shop and the TAMP and recommends commission approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Terry?
Commissioners, item 68 is a department action item requesting an allocation of $353.8 million to advance the construction of 4 shop projects originally programmed for delivery in fiscal year 1920. One project being advanced is a safety project on Highway 70 in Butte County. This project will widen to allow for a 2-way left turn lane, standard shoulder widths, and provide a clear recovery zone. Another project being advanced is in Sacramento County on State Route 50. This shop project will be combined with an SB1 Solutions for Congested Corridors project that is also requesting an advance at this meeting. Improvements of these combined projects will include rehabilitating approximately 54 lane miles of pavement and providing 14 lane miles of HOV lanes. Staff has reviewed these requests and recommends approval.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dunn, a second by Commissioner Alvarado. Is there any discussion? Yes, Commissioner Van Kynenberg.
Yes.
The Highway 70 that's in this one is related to the Highway 70 that was in 66. Are they next to each other, or are they totally at separate points? I guess I just wanted a little clarification on that.
Which 2 are you saying it in?
So,
I'm sorry, say
so
that again.
the Highway 70 in Butte County and the Highway 70 in Yuba County, how far apart are they?
I think.
Okay, so they're totally separate projects? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, that was my confusion. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's totally fine. We better be right on. So, okay, any further discussion? If not, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Teresa, 69, please.
Item 69 is an action item. This is a financial allocation request of $7,637,000 for 10 Stip projects off the state highway system. Staff has reviewed the request and finds it consistent with Stip guidelines and the program, and staff recommends your approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Van Kynenberg. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries. Item 70, Teresa.
Item 70 is an action item. This is a financial allocation request of $26,200,000 for the transit system-wide light rail vehicle projects in Los Angeles County. Staff has reviewed this request and finds it consistent with Stip guidelines and the program. Staff recommends your approval.
I have a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Van Konynenberg. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? But abstaining? That motion carries. Item 71, Teresa.
This is a allocation request of $2 million for the Del Mar Bluffs Stabilization Project in San Diego County in the Stip program. Staff has reviewed this request and finds it consistent with the Stip guidelines and the program. Staff recommends your approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kehoe, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Abstaining? That motion carries. Item 72, please, Teresa.
Item 70, excuse me. Item 72 is an action item. This is a financial allocation advancement request of $7 million for the State Route 70 Passant Lane Segment 1 project in Butte County. Staff has reviewed this request, and although this is programming 1920, this project is also being proposed with SHOP funds that you just recently approved, and this is consistent with Stip guidelines. Staff recommends your approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Van Konynenberg, a second by Commissioner Gilmetti. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Abstaining? That motion carries. Teresa, item 73, please.
73 is an action item. This is an allocation request from the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program for $1,550,000 for the Blue Line Rail Corridor Enhancement Project in San Diego County. Staff has reviewed the request, finds it consistent with the program. Staff recommends your approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kehoe, a second by Commissioner Burke. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Abstaining? That motion carries. Item 74, Dawn, please.
Item 74 is an action item to approve the Proposition 1B TCIF construction allocation for the Everport Terminal Berth Efficiency Project for the Port of Los Angeles. Staff has reviewed the request and finds it consistent with the program guidelines. Therefore, staff recommends your approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Abstaining? That motion carries. Item 75, Christine.
Tab 75 is an action item to approve an allocation totaling $3,704,000 for 2 locally administered local partnership Formulaic program projects off the state highway system in Contra Costa and Fresno counties, programmed in fiscal year 2018-19. Staff has reviewed the request, and the item is consistent with the local partnership.
Oh, excuse me. Okay. I'm sorry, Christine. Hold on just a second. Can we back up? So, Commissioner Van Konynenberg, please.
I'm afraid that I, just until this moment, had failed to realize that I own property near the item in El Cerrito, so I need to leave at this moment in time.
Okay. We will wait for you to leave. Sorry about that, Christine. Is he out of here? Okay, Christine, sorry for the interruption.
Tab 75 is an action item to approve an allocation totaling $3,704,000 for 2 locally administered local partnership Formulaic program projects off the state highway system in Contra Costa and Fresno counties, programmed in fiscal year 2018-19. Staff has reviewed the request, and the item is consistent with the local partnership program guidelines and the adopted Formulaic program. Therefore, staff recommends your approval of tab 75.
Let's see, I have a whole bunch of motions here. Motion by Commissioner Kehoe, a second by Commissioner Alvarado. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Item 76, Christine. We want to get Paul back, please, first. Okay. Okay.
TAP 76 is an action item to approve an advance allocation of $822,000 for a locally administered local partnership formulaic program project off the state highway system in Santa Barbara County, programmed in fiscal year 2019-20. Staff has reviewed the request, and the item is consistent with the local partnership program guidelines and the adopted formulaic program. Therefore, staff recommends your approval of TAP 76.
Okay, so we had a motion by Dunn, a second by Commissioner Kehoe. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move to 77. Matthew.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tab 77 is an action item to approve a Solutions for Congested Corridors program allocation request of $12,600,000 for construction support and $72,191,000 for construction, and a local partnership formulaic program allocation request of $579,000 for construction, all for the US 101 Marin-Sonoma Narrows segment C2 HOV Lanes Gap Closure Project on the state highway system and in Sonoma County. Staff has reviewed these requests and finds them consistent with each program's guidelines and recommends your approval.
Move second.
Whoa,
but I have a question as well.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Gilmetti, a second by Commissioner Guardino, and a question, I think, from Commissioner Guardino.
Thank you. On the background, it mentions it's contingent upon the approval of a budget revision by the Department of Finance. We've been waiting so long to get this completed. How long do we expect that to take? Yeah, agreed. So,
good morning, Commissioner. Stephen Keck with Caltrans.
Hey.
Good to be back. That's a great question, and these are fairly routine budget revisions that we request. The budget's built with flexibility to allow us to make these kinds of adjustments depending on types of projects approved. So it's very routine, and it has yet never held up a project.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstained? Okay, in case you didn't hear that, Stephen, Commissioner Alvarado thought you had a nice suit, so it's just sharing what I'm hearing here in the chatter. So,
Stephen,
okay.
Stephen, I wouldn't get excited when the compliment is from a guy who's never worn a suit in his life. Actually,
he has aspirational goals. Oh, we're going downhill. Let's move on to item 78.
Commissioners, tab 78 is an action item to approve a Solutions for Congested Corridors program advance allocation request of $10 million for construction support and $80 million for construction for the state-administered US 50 multimodal corridor enhancement project, HOV lanes from Interstate 5 to Watt Avenue in Sacramento County and on the state highway system. Staff has reviewed this request and finds it consistent with the program guidelines and within current budget capacity. This project coincides with a concurrent shop project allocation that was just approved. Staff recommends your approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gilmetti, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Abstaining? That motion carries. Item 79, Dawn, please.
Yes, item 79 is an action item to allocate a total of $26 million in Trade Corridor Enhancement Program and Stip funds for the State Route 605-91 Interchange Improvement Project in Los Angeles County. Staff has reviewed the request and finds it consistent with the program guidelines. Therefore, staff recommends your approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Kehoe. Is there any discussion on this? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? But abstaining? That motion carries. Dawn, item 80, please.
Yes, item 80 is an action item to allocate a total of $43.08 million in trade corridors, Stip, and Proposition State Route 99 funds for the State Route 99 Livingston Widening Project in Merced County. Staff has reviewed the request and finds it consistent with all the three program guidelines. Staff recommends your approval with an additional added request to approve non-proportional funding to allow the State Route 99 Prop 1B funds to be invoiced first in order to maximize the use of those funds on the project.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Van Kynenberg, a second by Commissioner Alvarado. Is there any discussion, any questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Item 81, Lori?
Good morning, Commissioners. Item 81 is an action item. There's one change to this item as noted on the change list. Project number 8 has been withdrawn. With that change noted, this item is to approve financial allocations of $25,401,000 for 17 active transportation projects. These allocations include $5,272,000 in construction funds for the 2020 Safe Routes to School Pedestrian Improvements Project in the city of Lancaster in Los Angeles County. This project will construct improvements such as closing sidewalk gaps at 5 elementary schools in the city of Lancaster. Staff has reviewed these requests. They are consistent with ATP guidelines and the adopted program. Therefore, staff recommends your approval.
Move approval.
I have a motion by Commissioner Guardino, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Item 82, Lori.
Commissioners, item 82 is an action item to approve advance allocations of $2,601,000 for 2 active transportation program projects programmed in fiscal year 1920. Staff has reviewed these requests. They are consistent with the ATP guidelines, the adopted program, and the ATP policy on project amendments and advanced project allocations. Therefore, staff recommends your approval.
Second.
I have a motion. I'm sorry, Commissioner Guardino. A motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Guardino.
Yeah,
Comment
and
by
happy to
Commissioner
second
Guardino.
it, and maybe I'm just being kind of thick this morning. The reason for the deferral at this time?
Is that's what Caltrans always recommends deferral on advancements.
Is the question, why is Caltrans making this recommendation?
Yeah.
The suit's back.
I'm going to have to start sitting up closer. So generally speaking, unless it's the fourth quarter of a fiscal year, we recommend deferral of advancements to protect the remaining allocation capacity for those projects that are programmed in this year. If it's fairly minor, it's not a huge fiscal impact, but that's why we recommend deferral.
First, thanks for the answer, and second, I really just wanted to see the suit again.
Oh, thank you. I'll button it.
Thank you.
And I would just note that in general, your staff takes a less conservative approach.
In our
With a
suits
suit?
or in this?
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Definitely with that.
So question?
Yes, Commissioner Dunn.
So I'm
sorry.
confused because the recommendation says from the staff recommendation, or is it CTC staff is to approve this?
Staff is recommending approval.
But Caltrans is recommending deferral.
Are we approving the deferral or?
Are we approving a deferral or are we approving projects?
Commissioners, we're approving commission staff recommendation to approve this and move forward and not defer the item, the allocation. Commission staff believes there should be sufficient, there is, well, that report you're looking at was prepared by Caltrans.
Okay.
And so commission staff reviewed that report, and based on the information that we believe is relevant to this action, we would recommend the allocation.
Commission staff reviewed to ensure that we had the allocation capacity, and that's mostly based on the time extensions that we get.
Okay, so no further discussion. I'll call for the vote, and everybody understands the vote is to support the staff recommendation. Or commission staff, yes. So all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Lori, item 83, please.
Commissioners, this item is an action item to approve an advance allocation of $95,000 for one active transportation program project programmed in fiscal year 2021. Staff has reviewed this request. It is consistent with the ATP guidelines, the adopted program, and the ATP policy on project amendments and advanced project allocations. Therefore, staff recommends your approval.
I move the commission staff recommendation.
Okay.
This again has that same. Yeah.
Okay. We had a motion by Gilmetti and...
Are you okay, Commissioner Gilmetti?
Okay.
No. And you look great too. No, what I meant was, are you okay if I second the motion that we make it clear that we're recommending the commission staff recommendation and not the Caltrans note on the back? I'm with you, and we're both with Lori. Great.
Okay, so a motion by Gilmetti, a second by Commissioner Gardino, a third by Commissioner Dunn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Lori, you're up again. 84, please.
Yes, Commissioners. 84 is an action item. And there's also a change on the change list. Project number 4 has been withdrawn. So with that change noted, staff has reviewed the extension requests. These are for project allocation, time extensions, and for 8 ATP projects. And they are consistent with the ATP guidelines and recommends their approval as shown on the yellow time extension table and the change list.
A question, if I may, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Gardino.
Lori?
Yes.
We do time extensions all the time. When they're seemingly incredibly long, I often wonder why. The first one, City of San Jose, Coyote Creek Trail, wants a 20-month extension on something that's already been a few years in the making. Do we know more about why they would need a 20-month extension? And forgive me for not asking that earlier in the week, but I had only gotten through tab 73 before our call on Monday.
And good morning, Commission. Eve Zudi, City of San Jose, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services. Good morning. It's been a challenging project for a number of reasons, but one of it was that we've done a lot of federal projects in the past. We've worked with Caltrans very well in the past, and we had been working through our RFQ process based on some prior hiring that we had done, and we found through that process we couldn't hire the consultant firm we sought to hire. We then got some new guidance from Caltrans to follow a new path, and that took some time to get there, but we've made that progress. The 20-month extension is 12 months would seem prudent with what we can do, but because we're doing so much work in the creek channel, we're working through an undercrossing, we're building a bridge, we're working on waterfront that's on a landfill. We need to be within the restricted season of construction, which starts in June. So a year puts us in the wrong time of year to be able to start construction.
Understood. That makes sense. Thank you, Yves, and thanks for coming all the way down on this item.
Thanks.
Okay, is there any further discussion? If not, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Oh, we don't have a motion.
I'll make that
thank you.
motion.
Sorry, I should never have let him talk before a motion. Okay, we now have a motion by Commissioner Gardino, a second by Commissioner Kehoe. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? But abstained. That motion carries. Item 85, Terry.
Commissioners, item 85 is a department action requesting contract award time extensions for 8 shop projects. Please note that the requests for projects numbers 1 and 5 were pulled prior to the meeting because those contracts were awarded. Also, after the item was posted, the department opened and reviewed the bids for project number 3. They had one responsible bidder, but the bid was much higher than the engineer's estimate. So the department will be rejecting the bids and is requesting a 12-month time extension to repackage and re-advertise the project. So originally they had asked for a 6-month, which we concurred with. Staff would concur with the 12-month time extension request. So staff recommends commission approval of time extensions as shown on the table of staff recommendations with the one change that I just described.
We have a motion by Commissioner Van Kynenberg, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Lori, please, 86.
Yes, Commissioners, item 86 is an action item to approve 2 contract award time extensions for active transportation program projects. Staff has reviewed the extension requests, and they are consistent with ATP guidelines and recommends their approval as shown on the yellow time extension table.
Move approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gardino, a second by Commissioner Burke. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote on that. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Item 87, Teresa.
Commissioners, item 90. Item
87? 87?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Item
It's
87.
okay. I'm usually the one that's
item.
lost. So.
I know. This is a time extension request. This is a time extension request for a contract award for a Stip project, the MacArthur Drive Widening and Reconstruction Project in San Joaquin County. Staff has reviewed staff recommends you approve a 6-month time extension to award for this project. Staff recommends your approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Van Kynenberg, a second by Commissioner Gometti. Is there any discussion? Yes, Commissioner Dunn.
I'm sorry, Teresa, you said
you're not microphone.
Yes.
And yet
they I don't have the yellow. Great. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All ready for the vote? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. 88, Christine.
Tab 88 is an action item to approve 1 local partnership Formulaic program contract award time extension request. Please note on the change list, a time extension was withdrawn for the West Main Street Bicycle Pedestrian Mobility and Safety Project. The contract was awarded prior to the CTC meeting. Staff has reviewed the extension request, and the item is consistent with the local partnership program guidelines. Therefore, staff recommends your approval of tab 88 as shown on the yellow time extension table and the change list.
We have a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Lori, item 89, please.
Yes, Commissioners, item 89 is an action item. This request is for a project completion time extension for the Gilroy Moves project in Santa Clara County. Staff has reviewed the extension request in item 89 and is consistent with ATP guidelines, and staff recommends its approval as shown on the yellow time extension table.
I'll move approval, but I will have a question if there's a second.
Okay, to keep me in order here, we have a motion by Commissioner Gardino, a second by Commissioner Gometti, and then to Commissioner Gardino for a question.
Yeah, this seems like a great effort. It's been in the works for over 3 years, it looks like, and now another 12 months. And I understand the reasoning, but have we spoken with the small community of Gilroy and had a better sense of them being able to move this forward if we grant another 12 months? Or
Yes.
are we going to be back with another one?
The department would have spoken with them when they were processing the time extension and had been assured that it would be completed within the 12 months.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Item number 90, Terry, please.
Commissioners, item number 90 is a department action item requesting an extension of 6 months for the project completion of a shop project in Placer County. The request has been reviewed and is consistent with the shop guidelines. Staff recommends commission approval of this time extension.
We have a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there any discussion? Yes, Commissioner Van Kynenberg.
Have we extended this before? It seems very familiar that we extended this once before.
No, and we only allow the one time.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? But abstaining, that motion carries. Lori, item 91, please.
Commissioners, item 91 is an action item. It is for 2 project expenditure time extensions for ATP projects. Staff has reviewed the extension requests in item 91. They are consistent with ATP guidelines and recommends their approval as shown on the yellow time extension table.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Kehoe. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Alvarado, is your light on for this item or a further item? Later. Okay. Okay. So no further discussion. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Yes, Commissioner Alvarado?
Yeah, I'd like to next month have somebody bring us a report on the Antlers Bridge. I'd like to be like an executive summary, kind of a timeline, the issues, arbitration decisions and results, and then where we're at in any settlement, whether there have been offers made or whatever. Okay, thank you.
We will do that.
Okay. Any other requests from my members? Yes, Commissioner Gardino.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and this is certainly off our item, but as many of you know, our foundation does several community charity runs throughout the year, and I had brought some for our amazing staff last time, and turned out I hadn't brought enough. So I do have extras for women and for men if our hardworking staff doesn't run away, but would like to run this way for a running shirt. I have those for you.
We're running right along. So with that, public comment. Hearing none, the meeting